Hello, I'm Julianne. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in June and letting you know what I thought of them. So the first book that I finished reading in June was An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. This is a lovely hardback copy that I got at a like the UK book launch, I guess. Hank Green wasn't actually there, he was just on video. But it was still a very nice event. I believe there was food and cocktails. Back when I used to be able to go to book events in London. Very nice. Anyway, I got a free copy of this book. I also got a badge, an enamel pin of a little robot, but I can't find that now, which is really annoying because I have this rule where if I get a book pin, I can't wear it until I've read the book. And now I have read the book and I can wear the pin, but where I put it, I now don't know. I did have it in a particular place for ages and I kept coming across it and thinking, oh, I really must read that book so I can wear that pin or at least put it on my pin banner, because like you don't even let myself put them on my pin banner until, well, no, my pin banners, I have to, until I've read them. But yeah, anyway, that happening yet, lost it, don't know where it is. But this book, really good. Oh my god, I didn't know what to expect because although I've watched a lot of Hank Green's videos, and I read some John Green books, I didn't know what Hank Green's writing was going to be like. And I was delighted. You know when an author is kind of a celebrity, and you're kind of a bit dubious? You don't know how good the book's going to be. This surpassed all my expectations. I enjoyed it so much and I can't wait to read the sequel. I almost immediately went out and bought it, but then I was like, no. You're going to use the prospect of the sequel as a carrot to get you to read other books that you already own. So yeah, An Absolutely Remarkable Thing is about a young woman who one night is on her way home from work. She works at this terrible startup company and she's really unhappy. And she sees this weird robot thing and she thinks it's a work of art, like some kind of public art that's just appeared, and so she calls her friend who basically makes YouTube videos and gets him to come over, and they film a whole thing about this robot. She doesn't really think much of it, she goes to sleep, she wakes up the next morning, turns out she's gone viral because these robots have popped up in places all over the world. And there's this whole mystery surrounding them that then she sets out to investigate, whilst also trying to turn herself into a kind of celebrity. Like she deliberately sets out to become a sort of spokesperson for the robots, even though they have no voice of their own. And yeah, it's amazing. It's like part kind of like, it's kind of like the best bits of contemporary mixed with a bit of sci-fi. And I really enjoyed it and I would strongly recommend it. And as I say, I am so excited about reading the sequel because it ends on a total cliffhanger. Oh my god. I need to read the next one now. But I can wait, I will wait. I need to read more books that I already own first. The next book I finished reading was Black Sheep by Georgette Heyer. Now this is the third Heyer book I've read. I think third, fourth, I think third. I want to say third. Yeah. I think I read Cousin Kate, Arabella, and then this. Yeah. Oh no, wait. This is the fourth because I also read Regency Buck. That was the first one I read, and I didn't like it very much. Well, I liked the historical atmosphere, but I didn't like the romance at all. Cousin Kate is just completely bizarre. Very strange. Very poor depiction of disability and problematic all over. Arabella, fine, dragged a little bit in places. Black Sheep, loved it. There's this one little racist bit towards the end, and it's just the use of a racist term, and or maybe outdated terminology is the best way to put it. So warning for that. You're like, Georgette, why? I know you were probably not very nice, lady, and you're dead. And even if you weren't dead, you won't be profiting over this copy from the 70s. I think it's from the 70s. I think I said this last time I read a Georgette Heyer book. Yeah, Yeah, this was printed in 1979. So she's not profiting from this anymore. So I feel like I can read her books and enjoy them for what they are and call out the little problematic bits with a plum. But yes, one use of outdated terminology. But other than that, great. So this is about a woman called Abigail, who is a spinster. She's 28, and she lives with her sister and her niece in Bath. She seems to quite enjoy her life as a spinster. She's quite well off. She's got a decent allowance, and she lives with her sister, who is in the same situation, and her niece, who is an heiress, who's going to be very, very, very wealthy one day. I think when she's 25. I think it's quite a long wait for her to receive her inheritance. But she's she feels very, very responsible for her niece. So Abigail had gone off to visit relatives for a bit, and she's just come home and she's discovered that her niece has got involved with a fortune hunter, a man who is very charming and suave and kind of love bombs her niece, makes her think that they're Romeo and Juliet-esque love is meant to be, but really he's just after her money. And she sets out to separate them. But she wants to keep her niece on side. She knows that this is a very delicate situation. She doesn't want to alienate her niece because then she might elope. And she loves her very much and she wants to maintain their close relationship. So she sets out to confront this guy. But there's a case of mistaken identity because she thinks she's confronting him, but actually she's confronting his uncle, who doesn't really care about the whole affair. And that's what's really, really funny about the love interest in this book, Miles Calverley. Yeah, so he is he's the black sheep of his family, so he was kind of kicked out and sent to India to make his fortune. Colonialism, so much colonialism, but it's Regency romance that kind of goes with the territory if you're talking about the really rich people. I really want to read more Regency romance about ordinary people who were not involved in the colonialism, but that's another question. Well, not directly involved. Obviously the whole country profited from colonialism, but you know, this isn't the colonialism soapbox hour, so I'm going to move on. So anyway, he went off to India to do some colonialism and make his fortune, and now he's come back to England, and he has some secret plans, but he doesn't reveal those to anybody until the very end. But yeah, he's just very detached from his family because he thinks, you know, they weren't very nice to him. They sent him off to India. They considered him the black sheep. It was punishment for something he'd done. But it was a bit out of proportion to the crime. So he's, he is kind of very detached from his family, and so he doesn't care that his nephew is a fortune hunter and trying to marry this random woman's niece. But they get on really well. They have really great banter. They develop an attachment to each other pretty much immediately. And then, so the course of the book is them kind of like dealing with this reality, but also the fact that Abigail wants to split her niece and Stacey, the fortune hunter. So there's a lot of will Miles relent and help her out, or will she just have to keep trying to do this on her own? And it was just a lot of fun. And what's really great about this is the conversations between Abigail and Miles. They're just fabulous. The dialogue is just great. They just spark off each other perfectly. And so I'd especially recommend this, I think, to writers who really enjoy dialogue, because this is great. And I think I'd be keeping this one so I can read back those passages and enjoy them again over and over. Might get a different copy though. If I see a different copy in a charity shop that's a bit newer and nicer than that 70s print, I'll probably get that. But for now, I'll hold on to that one. The next book that I finished reading in June was Monsterous Design by Kat Dunn, which is the sequel to Dangerous Remedy, and I loved this. In fact, I think I preferred it to the first one, which is always a good sign, because so many series, the second one kind of falls a little bit flat, but this is not the case with Monsterous Design at all. It is outstanding. So it picks up where Dangerous Remedy left off with the same group of characters, so it's very difficult for me to describe because I don't want to spoil Dangerous Remedy for you if you haven't read that. But the whole premise of the series is essentially that it's kind of in the middle of revolutionary France. So the revolution's already happened, there's been a lot of guillotining, some guillotining is still happening, still going on, and the characters are a group of young people who have basically set themselves up as rescuers of people who have been condemned to death. So it's basically lots of heists as they try to rescue people, steal information, that kind of thing, whilst also dealing with their own complicated feelings and emotions and relationships with each other, because they have parents who were either victims of the revolution or involved in it in some way, or both. And what I find really fascinating about this series, and what really attracted me to it in the first place, apart from getting sent a proof copy and having a netgalley and also knowing the author, was that it's about what happens after the revolution, and I feel like that's something that isn't explored that much in literature. I feel like so many books focus on getting to that revolutionary point, you know, like The Hunger Games is all about how they overthrow Panem, you know, basically. But there isn't that much detail on what happens afterwards, what the after effects is. There's a little bit, but not that much. And I really want to know, like, what do you do after you change the world? After everything's never going to be the same again? How do you rebuild? What kind of after effects does living through this violent overthrow of authority have? How do people adjust? How do people create new lives? Can we truly create the world that we want to create? All of that stuff. So yeah, I really enjoy that this is in there, and also that there's loads of action and romance and clashes of interests and betrayals and secrets and all of that good fun stuff. The next book I finished reading in June was Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the first in the Brown Sisters trilogy, which is a series of romance novels following the Brown sisters as they set off for new courses in their lives and find romance, and yeah. It's just very, very adorable and cozy. This book was so cute but also sexy at the same time, which is a combination that I think is quite hard to pull off, but Talia Hibbert does it so beautifully. So Chloe Brown is a young woman with chronic illness, and she lives at home with her family, and then one day, after a sort of near-death encounter, she decides that she needs to get a life. So she moves out and she makes herself a list of things that she's got to do in order to have considered herself to have gotten a life, and she recruits her the superintendent of her building to help her in this quest in a kind of roundabout way. She asks him if he can take her out for a ride on his motorbike, and then kind of things go from there. They end up dating and hanging out, and yeah, romance develops, and of course they're in denial about the romance. Yeah, it was just lovely. And I immediately then, after finishing this, bought the trilogy from Illumicrate because they're doing a special hardback set. So I'm really looking forward to reading the others when that arrives, and just have to resist getting them on ebook in the meantime. And the last book that I finished reading last month was In the Ravenous Dark by A.M. Strickland. This is a Illumicrate edition. Very beautiful. It's got this lovely sprayed edge, and gorgeous end papers with illustrations of the characters. Yeah, it was lovely. Reading this book was an absolute delight. I have really gotten into actually reading my Lumen Crate books lately, because it just feels really luxurious to do it, to just sit there with this gorgeous hardback, and I have to be so precious with them. You know, normally I'll do things like read books whilst eating, kind of in a sort of very rough manner. I might take books out with me and read them in the park. Not doing that with any of these beautiful books, treating them with almost with kid gloves because I cannot bear the thought of spoiling the beauty. So yeah, I read this so that I could review it in my new format, a Lumen Crate unboxing. And I enjoyed every minute. It's about a young woman who inherited blood magic powers from her father, who always told her that she must keep a secret and not let anybody know about it, because otherwise she will get carted off to the palace and basically made to use her powers in service of the city-state, and also she would get bound to a kind of undead spirit, which was always presented as a very horrible thing that you do not want to have to happen to you. One day she is hungover, very drunk, and somehow wound up on a roof with her current lady friend. And whilst trying to get down, her lady friend nearly dies, and she uses her powers to save her life, which attracts the attention of basically everybody, and she ends up getting caught, taken to the palace, and they find out who she really is. And then she is drawn into all this court politics and intrigue and stuff that I absolutely adore. I just love a book where someone's forced to deal with all of that kind of politics, basically. It is what I really love about the last Namsara series, and I got all of those vibes reading this as well. This book I would describe as much more goth. So there are two kinds of magic in this world. There's blood magic and there's death magic. Says it all, really. Everything is very creepy. The palace is covered in vines and flowers that are not natural. They're created by magic, and they're very regimented, and it's all weird and a bit uncanny. And it just has this very, very kind of spooky, foreboding atmosphere, and lots of death and murder and people getting sent off to do things they don't want to do, and yeah, very controlling king, and the whole thing with the spirits. So yeah, she ends up getting bound to this spirit who she's kind of like attracted to, but in denial about being attracted to. So that's very interesting. And she also has a thing for one of the princesses, which is very fun as well. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, and it's a standalone as well. I don't think there's a sequel. Although I would definitely read more stuff set in this world. So that ends my monthly wrap up for June 2021. Thank you very much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more from me. If you would like to read more books but don't know where to start, check out my free e-course, Ignite Your Passion for Reading, Falling in Love with Books, in the description box. And you'll also find a link there to my novella Unlocking Lockdown, which I published last year, which is set during the first 2 weeks of the first lockdown in the UK for COVID-19, which seems like it was about 1 million years ago now, but people are still reading it and enjoying it, and you might too. So thank you again. You'll see me again soon. Bye.